Hey, Phil Mandel here, flight instructor at Twin Oaks Air Park. And I want to introduce you to what I think is the best airplane in the sky. Thorpe T-18. And it was built by a guy named Bill Cordoza, initially licensed in 1977. But nowadays, if you want more info or order parts or see what kits are like, thorpecentral.com. So in 1963, John Thorpe, who, by the way, was one of the principal designers of the Cherokee series airplanes at Piper. So this airplane and all the Cherokees are cousins. In 1963, he designed his 18th design, he called it T-18, sometimes subtitled the Tiger, but everyone knows it as a T-18. And then in the 80s, he and a gentleman named Lou Sunderland, which is why sometimes you hear S-18, did some redesign, changed the shape of the wing, and then did probably the smartest thing to it, which is to make the cockpit 2 inches wider. And so you often hear it called a wide-body T-18, and the only chance in the world that I would let this go would be if I could find a wide-body that was as perfect as this one. But for now, this is my airplane for life. All right, so let's talk about some of the unique features of this airplane. And one of the things that people notice first is that the wing is broken. It's not really broken. It's meant to be that way. And to the best of my understanding, John wanted to design an airplane that used the simplest possible components and was relatively easy to build, inexpensive to build. Remember, this is back in the 60s, so kit planes were still just really evolving and getting into their own. So, gosh, I'd have to look it up to be sure, but I think this is pretty much built out of 14 sheets of aluminum, plus spar parts and things like that. But so I think that's part of the reason the wing is broken. Like, this is one sheet of aluminum, this is another sheet, and then this makes for a real simple spar carry through. This whole lower wing, as far as I know, is one whole spar. And the easiest way to do it is to make it straight, but you need dihedral, so we'll put the dihedral out here. It works great. So as you can see, they're kind of short, little stubby wings. The entire airplane is only 20 to 21 feet wide, not including the strobe lights. And so it takes a little speed to get going, but once airborne, it's a rocket, especially with my engine, which we'll talk about in a little bit. All right, so let's take a look inside the cockpit, and it's not huge, so it pretty much fits me and one other person my size, maybe a little bit bigger. And then it starts getting really tight, which is why I want it 2 inches wider. Oh my gosh, that would make such a difference. But anyway, I love her as she is. And so side-by-side bucket seats. And I have relatively basic instrumentation. Of course, some people deck these out full IFR. But everything is electronic, so I have no vacuum system, no gyros. And once I'm in it, at least at my size, I'm just about as big as I can be to fit before my head hits the inside of the canopy or anything like that. I'm very, very comfortable. So back here to the tail, and we have, you're used to seeing a horizontal stabilizer and an elevator, and what John designed and had the patent for is a stabilator. So it's all one unit. I think it just makes it for a simpler design and possibly lighter weight. I'm not sure what all the advantages are, but it works great. And this is called an anti-servo tab as opposed to a trim tab. So the nomenclature is a little bit different, but when you're inside the cockpit, you don't know the difference. It just acts like an elevator as far as you can tell from the stick. So coming around the back, of course, the rudder is just standard. It's not huge, so it can't get a great slip out of it. But the good news is, if I show you the flaps for a second, you get a pretty decent amount of flap out of this. These go down, probably down there, with full flaps. And that's a decent amount of drag. I can come down fairly steep over obstacles and not have to pick up airspeed on the way down. So I rarely have to slip. So in other words, it's not a drawback that it doesn't have a huge rudder. It just is what it is. So let's jump up front and see what she's got for horses. So John initially designed these for the 0290 Lycoming, 140, 145 horsepower, I think. And I'm sure quite a few were built with that power plant, but you know how home builders are. If it fits, we'll put in more power. So there are a lot of Thorpes with 0320s, 160 horse. This one happens to be an 0360, 180 horse, constant speed. It's a rocket. So I get off the ground real quick. I climb 1,500 feet per minute, even fully loaded on a warm spring day like today. For performance, gosh, when I was coming back from Houston, typically be at 8,500 or 10,500 feet, something like that. 190 miles an hour, true airspeed at altitude. And that's throttled back to 65% power, 10 gallons an hour. So it's pretty much a rocket. Stall speed with full flaps is down around 50, and it can take you by surprise. It's got a kind of a sharp stall characteristic. So you know, you just got to keep your speed up in the pattern like with any airplane. As I mentioned earlier, the flaps work great, so you can keep your speed up, but not have to worry about slowing down during final, because those flaps are very, very draggy, which is what you want flaps to do. All right, so in terms of fuel, so there's just one header tank in this airplane, so that's another way to keep the design simple. And this is a little fuel door with a secret release inside that I'm not going to show you. But one tank here that's rated for 29 gallons, nothing in the wings, no other tanks anywhere in this airplane. Some people do put in wing tanks. It obviously gives them more fuel, more range, and occasionally someone will put maybe a 5-gallon tank in the baggage area. Right. So those are the basics of my little beauty right here. So let's go ahead and do some flying.
All right, welcome aboard. Got my Unicom set up, get my flight going. All right, keep going on the checklist. Let's see. Left mag on, I got the right mag on. Alternator and radio master. That's Twin Oaks Unicom.
Twin Oaks traffic, RV for Romeo Victor, 6 miles west, inbound for the 45 to left downwind 02 Twin Oaks.
And oil pressure is good. Throttle 1,000 RPM. iPad is connected to the Echo UAT for traffic. Let's see. Lights and switches are on. I got my strobe, always landing lights, autopilot flight director. Those are all on. Mixture lead for taxi. Altimeters set. I got several altimeters. I got 3 now. All right, check steering and brakes, and here we go. All right, steering works. Brakes feel solid. All right, flight controls free and correct. Our trim is set for takeoff. This airplane doesn't have a trim indicator, but so I go full nose up trim, and then I go down for about 2 seconds.
And 12 traffic.
Fuel valve is on.
You're turning left downwind, 02 Twin Oaks.
All right, somebody on left downwind. Up there. Got him. All right, mixture set, and it's running up. Got to hold the stick back and a tail dragger. Otherwise, tail comes up, the nose goes down. You lose your prop in your engine. So I got the stick back, bring it up slowly, 1900 to 2000 RPM. Make a bunch of noise, keep the stick back. All right, right mag off. Left mag off. Both look good. Throttle back a tiny bit. Carburetor heat. Carburetor heat checks. I'll check the propeller 3 times. There's 1. Get some warm oil into the constant speed mechanism, and also verify that it's nimble and responds the way it usually does.
And Twin Oaks traffic for Romeo Victor, turn left base 02 Twin Oaks.
All right, there it is. All right, we'll check minimum idle briefly. Carb heat on. Minimum idle is not too low, not too high. And bring it up to 1,000 again. All right, I'll close the canopy. And once this aircraft is clear, we'll get going. Put the checklist away. All right, here's a cute little RV, RV-12. There's probably 10 of them on the field here. Very popular airplane. For good reason, it's a very wonderful airplane. All right, I'm going to latch the canopy. All right, canopy is latched. Full ridge, prop is full forward. Airplane's exiting. Twin Oaks, Experimental Light Bravo Charlie, departing runway 2. Twin Oaks, and be straight out departure.
1 up to 0, for Romeo, Victor's clear.
All right, nobody coming behind me, nobody coming the other way. All right, let's get this thing going. Crank it up, watch the oil pressure. Oil pressure nominal, pressure good, RPM good, airspeed is alive, and we will be airborne now. Doesn't take long. And we'll climb up fairly steeply just to show what this thing can do.
And 2 Oaks traffic for Romeo.
That's 1,500 feet per minute at 110 miles an hour indicated.
Apache 31 Papa, 7.7 miles southwest, 2006 knots, 13 pounds, runway 2 clear.
All right, I got stepped on there. So that was a 1,500 foot per minute climb at 110 miles an hour. And I throttle back a little bit, prop back, so I climb at about 25. And Hillsboro's airspace is Hillsboro is a Delta air control field, so Delta airspace is about a mile to my west. So I make a little gentle right turn when I go straight out. That's not exactly straight out, but we call it straight out. We're at 1,500 feet already. We took off from an airport that's 170 feet. It feels like a little bit of light turbulence. I'll just stick it around to the right. How do I noise canceling? There's an idea. A beautiful light.
16058, taxiing runway 2.
All right, I can turn that radio down. Don't need that anymore. And we'll go up to 3,000 feet. Maybe just do a couple of maneuvers. Just kind of a continuous right turn. All the way around to more or less south. And I'll set about 20.5 inches and 2,400 RPM. That's roughly 65% power on a 0360. And that helps me set the mixture control fairly quickly because the EGT takes a little while, but the gallons per hour is a fairly rapid indicator on my engine display. A little bit richer. There we go, about 10 gallons per hour. All right, so why does Phil love Thorpe so much? This is my third one. Third T-18, and no good reasons for having sold the first two. That's just me being impulsive. This is my 10th airplane overall, including half of them experimentals. I've had the experimental Christian Eagle, RV-4, an amazing airplane. All of them are, and then 3 T-18s. I've also had a Cessna 150, a Cessna 172, Piper Apache, which is a twin, and Piper Cherokee 140. Before I knew that John Thorpe had been associated with Cherokees. So. All right, so at 3,000 feet, I'm just going to clear the area. The beauty of a low wing is you can see where you're turning, and the beauty of a bubble canopy is you can see up. All over the place. So I see traffic on ForeFlight, ADS-B, so I don't have them visually yet. I was just going to turn to make sure I'm clear of the ADS-B traffic. And since I was concentrating on traffic, I lost a little altitude. But here's one of the things I love. I'll just show you real quick since we have to gain a little altitude anyway. So I'm just at 65% power. I'm indicating 140 knots, 150 5 miles an hour, something like that. And let's say there's a traffic situation that I need to avoid, and let's just see how long it takes to get to 3,500 feet. Here we are at 3,000. I'm not quite there. I'm at 31. We'll lower the nose a little bit. We'll start off at 3,000. And I'll just pick up 500 feet because I can. All right, 3,000 feet. Let's go. Oh, my goodness, there's traffic. We better get out of here. Bring the nose way up. Push the nose back down. I just picked up 500 feet. There's 3,500 feet right there. What'd that take, 5 seconds? And airspeed only went down to 110 indicated knots from 140. I only gave away 30 knots doing that. And we will very rapidly be back up to where we were. Okay, so the other thing is maneuverability. So I got traffic on my left, so literally on ADS-B. So I'm going to turn right. I'll just rack it over here to a steep bank, pull on the stick, get out of their way, and roll it back to level. So a nice quick roll rate, very maneuverable. It's just a dream to fly. Hardly takes any rudder because of the differential ailerons. So there's very little adverse yaw. In fact, I usually don't use rudder because I screw it up if I do. I usually end up using too much rudder if I try to coordinate it. I just let it do its own coordination thing. All right, so we'll just do a couple of gentle wing overs. So since it's, yeah, so I'm not going to do aerobatic flight, which means I'm not going to go more than 30 degrees pitch up or pitch down. I'm not going to go more than 60 degrees bank, but it still makes for a really cool and fun maneuver. So here we go. We're just going to raise the nose a bunch. Go nice and high. Whee! It's about 20 degrees nose high, and I'll just crank it over here, maybe 60 degrees. We're almost there. There's about 60 degrees. And kind of let the nose come back down, but this is the tricky part because it wants to build up airspeed very fast. So I got to start rolling out and bringing the nose up before I overspeed. So here we are up to 160 indicated. The red line is at over 200 knots, but I don't like to get close to it. All right, clear on ADS-B. All right, so let's do the same thing to the left. Crank it up here, about 20 degrees nose high. Over to maybe a 60 degree bank. Release some back pressure, let the nose come down. It's nice and easy, nice and gentle. A little more than maybe 1.5 G's on this part of it, on the round out at the bottom. And I try to keep it gentle, so if I have non-aviation passengers, I'm not out to scare anybody, and I'm not out to show off. Yes, I am. I'm out to show off my airplane. All right. Well, Twin Oaks is its usual zoo. All of a sudden, there was nobody there except for that one RV that landed when we departed. But as is typical, a lot of the training aircraft come back at more or less the same time. And right now on full flight, it looks like Twin Oaks International. So anyway, so I'll take my time getting back there because.
Twin Oaks 786 on 35 to the left downwind, runway 2 Twin Oaks.
This airplane likes to go fast, so my downwind speed is, my traffic pattern is 100 miles an hour.
058, left base, runway 02 Twin Oaks.
So I tend to chew up the Cessnas, of which we have 10 that we rent right now, which are 70 or 80 miles an hour.
3, 1 Romeo Victor, left crosswind.
All right, before landing checklist, fuel valve is on. Mixture full rich, prop full forward.
Twin Oaks 61786, final runway 2 Twin Oaks.
Pumps. Fuel is on. Undercarriage is down and welded. Mixture is full rich, prop is full forward, and safety seatbelt switches. Everything's good. All right, drop a little. I'm at 1,400 feet, looking for 1,200 for the pattern.
058, clear runway 02 Twin Oaks.
Yeah, Twin Oaks traffic. X-Bramley Bravo Charlie 45, left traffic, runway 2, Twin Oaks. All right, so nose up trim. I can try to get down to about 100 miles an hour. All right, I'll explain a little bit about this canopy. So on this particular installation, the canopy latch cannot be accessed from outside the aircraft. So in the event that something unfortunate happens and I bounce along and need to be rescued, it's impossible to unlock the canopy from the outside.
For Romeo Victor at the pumps, taxi hangar G, Twin Oaks.
So therefore, once I'm on in a traffic pattern and I'm slowed down, what I do is I unlatch the Twin Oaks, experimental Bravo Charlie, downwind runway 2, Twin Oaks. We'll take care of that first. I unlatch the canopy. Literally nothing happens, except it gets a little windier, and inside here it's a little bit noisier. Anyway, downwind, 1 notch flaps, 100 miles an hour, 1,200 feet. And I see 2 waiting for takeoff. Other than that, I'm alone in the pattern. That's good. Can't run anybody over if I'm alone. All right, I'll beam the numbers. We'll start a descent. I'll make a fairly long final, just so we have time to.
6 clear, runway 02, taxi to field front.
Yeah, so we have time to.
16058, departing runway 02, close traffic, Twin Oaks.
I'll make a fairly long final, so I have time to get organized and get a feel for the wind. Ooh, there's a hawk that just went by within a couple of wingspans. All right, yeah, they're fine.
Just a heads up, we got a couple, looks like vultures.
Traffic, 9 o'clock, 1.
Yep, I just saw a couple of, I think one bird was within 2 wingspans of me. All right, Twin Oaks, Bravo Charlie, final runway 2, Twin Oaks. All right.
His wingspan or your wingspan?
Yeah, his, fortunately.
Short 5.
I didn't say that right. Mine, fortunately. All right, there's another one very low here. Man, oh man. These should be on ADS-B or something. All right. So here's full flaps and 90 miles an hour. And notice that we got a pretty good descent. Wow, there's another bunch of them. Jeez, I got birds. All right, so let's get this thing slowed down. I'm a little bit too fast. Yeah, I'm going to power off. That was 90 miles an hour. Let's get down here near the runway and hold it off. I tend to do wheel landings. About like that. We'll slow it down a little bit. Then put the tail down. Do anything inside the cockpit until off the runway and down to taxi speed. Bravo Charlie is clear of the runway. Hey, thanks for flying with me today. I hope that gave you a little taste of what a T-18 is all about.
All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for coming for a flight, and hope that gives you a little information about the Thorpe. And hey, if you and I are ever in the same place at the same time and we fit in this little cockpit, I'll take you for a ride.